Good evening. My name is Paul Holdengräber, and I'm the Director of Public Programs at the New York Public Library. It is my pleasure to welcome to this stage Felix, Rohatyn, Nouriel Roubini, Jeffrey Sachs, and Charlie Rose.
The subject is a subject that is on everybody's mind. We clearly are all wondering what next, where are we going? This comes from Nouriel Roubini. Professor Roubini said, the crisis was caused by the largest leveraged asset bubble and credit bubble in the history of humanity. A housing bubble, a mortgage bubble, an equity bubble, a bond bubble, a credit bubble, a commodity bubble, a private equity bubble, a hedge fund bubble are all now bursting at once.
We're in the middle of a mess. In the middle of a panic, a sense of direction and purpose by itself gets a lot of headroom. And the most important economic statement of the 20th century was, we have nothing to fear but fear itself. A sentence played a large role in actually saving the United States. Why? That's so odd. It didn't change a single resource, didn't cost a penny to say, and yet it changed the mood of a country in a feeling of free fall and panic.
Because I think the most important thing in a crisis is to have people feel that somewhere somebody knows what he's doing. Well, I don't know, because so much of this doesn't make sense. The stock market goes down 1,000 points, and 2 days later it goes up 1,000 points without any visible reason for one or the other being dominant at that particular time.
Well, I think the reasons for this financial mess and economic disaster are many. The bursting of the tech bubble, Fed funds rates, the housing bubble, self-regulation, regulators being asleep at the wheel, euphoria, mania, over-reliance on internal risk management models, all these kind of toxic underwriting, subprime for near prime, for Alt A, for prime, for jumbo, for piggyback loans, for home equity loans. Greed and arrogance, distorted incentives, credit cards, auto loans, student loans, mortgages, or commercial real estate. So there are many culprits. So you can create the equivalent of, a financial monster. The freak finance or Frankenfinance is not what finance is supposed to be. So you really created a disorderly financial system.
We've created a system that, except for a couple of atomic scientists, nobody can understand. When money is cheap, what do? You borrow it and you spend it.
Right.
And you spend it half the time by doing something very stupid. And if it means buying a condominium that you can't afford, or going on a trip or whatever, the creation of cheap money is a terrible thing. And we've now spread this also, what we've been doing is contagious. It's all over the world now. So we have to be what we used to be, which is a country that's free and that's growing and that's responsible, and that is a help to the rest of the world and not a burden, which is what we've become.
6 months ago, it looked like just the US was entering a recession, but data from the second quarter of this year suggests that the Eurozone is entering in a recession, UK is entering a recession, New Zealand and Australia are entering a recession, Japan is going back into a recession, Canada is going into a recession.
But we're in a financial panic right now. A financial panic means the self-fulfilling drama of every normal lender feeling that they can't afford to make a loan even to a safe business for fear that no other lenders are going to be making those loans, indeed are going to be withdrawing the credits. And it becomes rational to panic when everybody else is panicking. When that cordon has been thrown around the banks, the attitude has not been, thank God they're stepping up to this. The market has said, okay, what is not protected now that we can wreck? In other words, if all of the G7 banks are protected, we better take money out of the non-G7 banks because they're not yet protected. The difference of a downturn of spending and a meltdown of liquidity, of an end of liquidity, I should say, is the difference of the US economy falling 2 or 3% next year, which is a drama, from falling 10 or 15%, which is a depression.
We have to show the rest of the world that we're not dying, that we're not collapsing, and that we're going to be around and that we're going to be very strong because we're going to do the things that have to be done. There is a decline in the power of this country, unfortunately. There's also a decline in the respect that other people have for this country. And if that continues, we're going to stop having respect of ourselves, which will be the final blow. So we have to be what we used to be, which is a country that's free and that's growing and that's responsible and that is a help to the rest of the world and not a burden, which is what we've become.
You know, for 30 years we've been going on a myth. You don't have to pay for anything. You know, we can run wars, we can do this, we can have our housing bubble. We don't have to pay for anything. It's the same philosophy, that where is the shared responsibility? Can I say something optimistic?
Yes, please.
It's been a while.
I introduced you as a person.
Right.
I introduced you as a person who believed that if we had
All
the will,
this pessimism is building my optimism, I have to say. We remain by far the most productive and flexible and technologically advanced economy in the world. Nothing is lost right now for the long term. We're not in a Great Depression. We're not going to be in a Great Depression also, I believe. We're going to be in a serious recession, which is going to feel miserable, but it's a lot different from 25% unemployment and a sense of helplessness. Capitalism comes in many flavors and with a tremendous amount of success in some of them. And capitalism is not ending. A market economy makes a lot of sense and it has great strengths, but this kind of fundamentalist market economy is ending in this country. This will be our 13th recession, and that means it'll be our 13th recovery also. But this is not the end of times, and this is not the end of the world, and this is not the end of America, and it's certainly not the end of hope.